Prestige worldwide. Why? Prestige worldwide.
What is it? Well, guys, climate change comes in a variety of forms. Most people view this as global warming. While this is true, there is also the factor of increased carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere, along with other factors such as melting ice caps. This all changes the Earth's climate.
Sam, this is Jake Bunsey. Nice to meet you.
Me too.
Is climate change real?
No, it is not.
Wrong.
Sound like a sheaf.
Do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
What are some effects of climate change?
Temperature increases, sea level rises, etc.
Okay. Do you know anyone that's like actually been affected by climate change?
No, but I believe it's a community effort in the end. Because if we look at right now only China was affected by the coronavirus, but now it's affecting the entire world.
All right, thanks, bro.
All right, I'm here with
Kieran Bradley.
Bradley. So, Kieran Bradley, do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
All right, sweet. Our next question would be, what do you think climate change is?
It is the warming temperature
Oh, yeah?
of the Earth.
Yeah, all right, I bet. Final question for you today on this Friday afternoon.
Right?
Have you ever been affected by climate change?
No.
All right, thanks.
Wrong.
Many people who disagree with the concept of climate change are convinced that the Earth is in one of its natural cycles. We can say with a 100% guarantee that this is false. Around the time of the Industrial Revolution, the United States CO2 emissions were below 1 billion metric tons. Today, they are well over 5 billion. As for the rest of the world, China is over 20 billion metric tons, and India is even higher. And the countries who haven't even started using solar and wind power are well over 30 billion metric tons of CO2.
The wind, it is free. The more that the prices go down of that, the more we have to create vast industries and vast employment and opportunities for ourselves. So the bottom line is that we can create a better life for ourselves. So we don't have to look at this as a death sentence or doom and gloom.
Right.
We can look at this as a time that we can create a brand new and better future with better jobs, higher paying jobs. So just to give you an idea, for every one job in fossil fuels to create 1 unit of energy, you need 2 or 3 of those jobs in solar power. And the fastest growing opportunities in the next decade, number 1 is wind technician, number 2, solar technician. Think about that.
You just heard from climate specialist Jeff Biradelli that what we have done in the past is not the end. By changing our sources of energy, we'll be able to not only reduce CO2 emissions, thus dropping the Earth's temperature, we'll be creating new jobs. Every 1 job in the fossil fuel industry will equate to 2 to 3 jobs in the naturally occurring power source industry. Not only does this help our home return to its natural state, but the unemployment rate will drop and the economy will improve.
We're here with.
Lauren Lanzette.
Do you believe in climate change?
Yes, I do.
What are some effects of climate change?
The icebergs are melting.
That is a good
That's
one.
a good one. We haven't heard that one yet.
Okay. Do you know anyone who's been affected by climate change?
Yes.
When one looks at this graph, they can see that there has almost been a constant increase in global temperature. There's been a constant increase in the United States temperature, especially during the era of the Industrial Revolution and since afterwards. But this is on a global scale, and one can see that it really took off around the mid-1900s, around that 1970-1980 mark, and then just consistently increased until it says 2016. This graph indicates that there was a 1.2 degree Celsius increase in global temperature from the pre-industrial period. Now, this is huge considering that these increasing temperatures are changing the Earth as we know it. They're melting icebergs, they're causing sea levels to rise. It's adding to global warming, and it just goes on to prove that climate change is a real threat to our society today.
Landon, do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
All right. Can you give us your own definition of climate change? What do you think it is?
I'd say change in temperature.
In what way? Positive or negative?
I'd say both.
Okay. Do you know anybody that's ever been affected by climate change?
Me.
We're here with
Nick.
Do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
What do you think climate change is?
Change of climate on Earth.
Have you ever been affected by climate change or know anybody that has?
No.
Thank you.
Wrong.
All right, we're here with.
Kobo Bryant.
Do you believe in climate change?
Yes, I do.
What are some effects of climate change?
Ice cubes are melting and water levels are rising.
Very intellectual. Thank you.
If you have a warmer atmosphere that can hold more moisture, because that's what warmer atmospheres do, they can suck up more moisture, that means more convection, more big thunderstorms, more hurricanes, more extreme weather. That's one of the likely outcomes of a warming world. We've built our civilization around the current climate, our coastal cities, our food resources, our water resources. They're all pegged to the current climate, and there's not much slack in the system.
As you just heard from Pierce Sellers, the acting director of Earth Sciences at NASA, tell us about the impacts of a warming climate. These consequences consist of bigger storms, more hurricanes, and more extreme weather. We've seen more common and more extreme hurricanes in the past years, and they're going to continue to get worse unless we change something. The rise in CO2 levels and increased temperatures will make these storms more common and more severe.
Florida, attention citizens of rest of Florida. Hurricane warning has been issued for Florida. Winds are going to be up to 200 plus kilometers per hour. It's going to do a lot of damage. People in Florida, you have to be prepared for hurricane.
Johnson here with.
Wyatt Smith.
Is climate change real?
Yes.
What do you think climate change is?
It's basically global warming, greenhouse gases released by large industry, causing the warming, the increasing temperatures of the globe.
Stop. Do you know anyone that's been affected by climate change?
Everybody is affected by climate change. Everybody is affected by climate change.
Everybody is affected by climate change.
Correct!
This is Kyle Wilson here with.
Cece Lashley.
Alright, Cease. Is climate change real?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. What do you think climate change is?
Like a change in climate.
You're gonna have to go a little more than that.
Like when it's like cold in the summer.
Okay, alright. Do you know anybody that's been affected by climate change?
No.
Alright.
Wrong.
Are there specific areas where we have seen marked reductions in the amount of greenhouse gases that are being output as the pandemic has worsened?
Within a week or so of the Bay Area and California, for example, going under a lot of these restrictions, air quality improving by 30% or so. So these are significant. We have seen what look like reductions of 10 to 30% in northeast China and the industrial part of northern Italy over as short as like a few week periods, as we started to see the virus really hit and some of these restrictions on people's movement and industry going into place. So the numbers are big.
As of March 31st, the COVID-19 situation has gotten worse in almost every single way, except for this one. Due to transportation and industrial areas shutting down, emissions are low. As I said in the video, emissions are down almost 30% in certain areas. Areas such as California and China, as well as Italy, have seen improvements in their air quality and their emissions. This proves that without a doubt, the industrial side of humans have an impact on the earth. The burning of fossil fuels releases extreme amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere as well as lowering the air quality.
joins me now. Jeff, what stood out to you in this report?
So I've read a bunch of these IPCC reports. They are dense, they're technical, they're sometimes difficult to read, and they're normally very conservative. They are not very assertive typically. They want to dot all their I's, cross all their T's before they make any assertions in the reports. This one's a lot more bold. It's a lot more assertive as they become more confident in the science. And so they're using words like unprecedented, irreversible. Things that they might have left out a few years ago for diplomatic reasons are not left out this year. It's starting to get to the point where, the reports are catching up with the science, which is, oftentimes the science will establish something, the IPCC will be slow to adopt it, not slow to adopt it this time around.
As Jeff Biradelli stated, the IPCC, or the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, recent report no longer leaves any question about climate change. They are asserting that climate change is real and it is here. They even tell about how some of the things humans have done are, and I quote, irreversible. They are no longer questioning the science, and the IPCC is now in full belief that climate change is extremely serious and we need to do things to prevent it from getting worse.
What do the scientists mean when they say the Earth's oceans have absorbed the rising temperatures we've seen?
Right, so greenhouse gases trap heat in, and the more carbon dioxide and more methane we release through the burning of fossil fuels, the more heat that's trapped in. Some of it gets absorbed by land, but 93% of it gets absorbed by the ocean. Why that's important is the ocean is huge, it's tremendous, and it controls the climate all over the Earth, and it comes back to haunt us. If you're absorbing all that heat, and take a look at that, every single year, ocean heat content hits new records. And actually, the amount of ocean heat content that we have absorbed in the past 50 years, we're going to see 5 to 7 times that likely by the end of the century. And what does it do? It powers much stronger hurricanes. It causes heavier rains, more extreme weather, and also kills a lot of creatures in the sea.
Biradelli continues by explaining how big of a difference the oceans make in our lives. 93% of heat is absorbed into the ocean. This means that the ocean has a huge impact on climate, and every single year, the ocean heat content rises, and it's just going to continue rising. If this keeps happening, this will cause more extreme weather and hurricanes, and even kill animals in the oceans.
Coral reefs are in danger of being almost completely wiped out by the middle or late part of the century. Kelp forests are going to suffer, and they actually store a lot of carbon dioxide. We need kelp forests. Grass, ocean grass, that's also disappearing. Wetlands, 50% of them, we lost about that much over the past several decades. The point is, there are cascading impacts. You cannot kill coral and not expect it to reverberate through the food web. 25% of the ocean creatures at one point in their life depend upon the coral reefs. If the coral reefs are gone, where do they go? And then what happens to us as a consequence and the rest of the species?
Aside from the oceans themselves containing heat and carbon dioxide, coral reefs and kelp forests contain CO2 as well. Many species in the seas feed on the kelp and hunt and live in the coral reefs. Without them, there will be thousands of sea creatures starving and without their homes. If this happens, there could be less fish for predatory animals to survive on, leaving less food for humans. All of this comes back to the extreme amounts of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases us humans are releasing into the environment. If we don't change something soon, our world will completely change.
All right, we're here with
Jeremy Gillies.
Jeremy Gillies. Jeremy Gillies, do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think climate change is?
I think it is the progression that has been increased by the human race, and that progression being the temperature is rising and the natural resources.
Damn, all right, bro. That's nice, dude. That's crazy. Have you ever been affected by it, or know anybody that ever has been?
So I went to Guatemala once, and it was hot. It was really hot.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Now, while Mr. Gillies is one of the smartest men we know, he is in fact incorrect about one thing. Contrary to popular belief, this does not only impact those in Guatemala, everyone is affected. It doesn't matter where someone is, they are constantly feeling the effects, whether that be global warming, rising sea levels, increased inclement weather, and other things. We are all victims to climate change.
This is Kyle here with
Chris.
Chris. Do you believe in climate change?
I do.
He does. What do you think climate change is?
The changing of climate on Earth.
Dumbass. Alright. Do you know anybody that's affected by climate change?
I had several relatives die by climate change.
Thank you.
While Chris was just joking, this may soon become a reality for the new generations.
Hi, I'm Sam Johnson. I'm here with
Blake Russell.
Is climate change real?
Yeah, I think climate change is real. You could tell by how hot it was this winter.
All right, that's nice. What do you think climate change is?
I think it's like the Earth heating up.
All right, that's
causing
good.
The climate
that's
to
good.
Change.
Do you know anyone affected by climate change?
Yeah, I feel like everybody's kind of
All right,
affected
nice.
by climate.
Thank you.
Like Blake said, the temperatures are rising. The graph is showing the temperature anomalies throughout the years. There is a clear upward curve in the graph, showing that the temperatures are rising. We are experiencing record temperatures almost every year. For example, this January was the second warmest ever recorded.
All right, this is Sam. I'm with
Sam Fidel.
Okay.
Sam and Sam.
So, do you believe in climate change?
I do.
What do you think climate change is?
The gradual increase of temperature, like over time.
Very intuitive. That's nice. Do you know anyone who's been affected by climate change?
Are we all?
Oh. Boy, what's her name?
Jack.
Jack, do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
Nice. What do you think climate change is?
When the climate is changing.
Oh, that's sick. All right. So have you ever been affected by it, or know anybody that has ever been affected by it?
No, I mean, save the polar bears and everything, but
Yeah.
I don't personally know anybody.
Okay, I feel that. Thanks, man.
Jackson. All right, do you guys believe in climate change?
Yeah. Yes, but not to the extent of what people think.
All right.
Nah.
All right, so what are some effects for those of you who believe?
The change in weather. For
Good one.
example, we barely had any snow this winter, and back in elementary school, we got a lot of snow here.
Yeah, good point. All right, so do you guys know anybody that's been affected by climate change?
Everyone.
Good answer.
Yeah, everyone.
That's what you love to see. Thanks, guys.
All right, we're here with the Hassan Kashif, former chief.
Yep.
Hassan, do you believe in climate change?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. Would you say that it's a problem?
Yes, I do see it as a long-term problem.
Okay, all right. What are some ways that you have seen it or experienced it?
As we know in the news, coronavirus has been partially attributed to climate change, so I believe we've all been personally affected by that. So that's one example.
Yeah. Do you know of any places in particular that it's been very impacted on?
Glaciers melting, ruining habitats for polar bears and people like that, or animals like that.
What's the worst part about climate change overall?
The worst part is most likely the rising temperatures that lead to seasonal changes overall.
Yeah, not good. How can we help stop or slow it?
Get this. Alright. Get out of here.
How can we help stop/slow it?
As we can see right now, because of coronavirus, a lot of people haven't been working in the same facilities that they are, so pollution has decreased a lot. So it's obviously possible, and it just shows that we're not taking enough action to do that.
Yeah. So what can happen, say, within the next 100 years if we don't do anything about it?
I believe resulting high temperatures could lead to sea level rises and things like that. Potentially eliminating a lot of coastal areas, so people have to relocate.
Yeah. All right. So that's all I got for you. Thank you, Hassan.
Like Hassan Chief Kashif said, we have all been affected by climate change. He used the example of how the coronavirus has impacted climate change. Well, this is correct. As humans, we all experience climate change in our everyday life. We see the weather changing and getting warmer when it shouldn't be, and getting colder when it also shouldn't be. We see our childhood and our lives changing on the daily. Also, he mentions that glaciers are melting. Polar bears and penguins are relying on these areas as their homes, and they're losing them. This isn't just in Antarctica. All ocean animals are losing their homes. Hassan said the worst part about climate change is the seasonal changes. This is truly unfortunate, but with a warmer climate, we will be seeing more extreme weather and stronger storms, which will prove how devastating they can be. Not only do we need to slow down industrial areas, we also need to convert our wind and solar farms for power. We need to slow down and even stop the burning of fossil fuels. If we don't, like Hassan said, we may see coastal areas be completely eliminated. Thank you.
Still be on the tree if it wasn't that hot.
Karen Bradley. Alright.
Hey Kyle,
What's up?
what month is it?
I believe it's the month of March.
So right after February, right?
Indeed.
Doesn't stop these goons from playing basketball when it's really cold outside. They're having fun.
That's right, man. And we're wearing short sleeves. The cold doesn't bite us.
Thank you.
What is climate change? Hey Siri. Hey Siri. What is climate change?
Climate change occurs when changes in Earth's climate system result in new weather patterns that remain in place for an extended period of time. Should I keep going?
No. Okay.
Alright. We're here with
Colby.
Thank you, Colby. Do you believe in climate change?
I don't know. Do you believe in it?
I do. Do you?
Alright, what are the facts?
Well, sea levels are rising, a bunch of icebergs are melting, increasing
Stop. No, keep going.
increasing
No,
temperatures.
I don't believe that.